The latest aviation news is all in the one place. Welcome back to Aviation News Weekly here on the channel. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Today's coverage centres around an airline in the Canadian sector at a potential risk of shutting down, coverage on Finnair, Garuda Indonesia and more, so buckle in, stay tuned as we dive right into the first topic of today's video. Flair Airlines underwent a major rebrand in 2019 that saw them get an overhaul in almost every single sense. However, it can easily be forgotten due to the sheer number of other airlines that launched in the sector in recent years. Flair, however, is a low-cost carrier based out in Edmonton, Alberta, and operates using at the moment the 737 family of aircraft. It was previously known more simply as Flair Air, and it can be seen in many locations in a host of provinces in Canada. However, recently it has been revealed that they could be at risk of shutting down. Why exactly? Well, according to local reports and the ever-important Canadian Transportation Agency, a lot has been discussed and also investigated regarding brand ownership, which may not actually meet the federal regulations to allow them to continue flying. The concern is that 777 partners have too much of a say in the overall decision-making of the operations at Flair, which would take away from the carrier's Canadian standards and the Canadian element. 777 partners are an essential piece to the puzzle for many airlines in the industry. Still, for Flair, they lease their aircraft from the company, and it is believed that not just down to the aircraft, but even the finer-tuned details of the airline, they're generally too dependent on 777 partners. Since this was revealed, the CEO of Flair said that they would be allowed to continue to fly within Canada despite an ongoing review of their license. A formal response is expected to the CTA, that is once again the Canadian Transportation Agency, by the 3rd of May. However, according to Global News Canada and the Flair CEO, this is not a date where they would have their license revoked, just rather where they need to put their case forward and their side of the story to be openly expressed and then reviewed further. So, they're not totally out of the woods, but the CEO remains pretty adamant they should be allowed to keep flying, and that's something they'll be keeping a close eye on in future episodes. On to our next topic, and that is regarding airlines that are continuing to rebuild their route network as we see restrictions ease worldwide. It's a magnificent sight, to say the least. Airlines, of course, are returning to destinations that they haven't served in years. More people are being reunited with loved ones, and so many are also getting that much-needed holiday they've been craving for such an extended period. Finnair is now finalising their schedule for the 2022-2023 winter season. While, of course, we haven't even hit that busy summer schedule yet, airlines are always forward-thinking. While our plans, personally, might only go until the end of the working week, airlines are eyeing up opportunities for the following years and finalising key route details, aircraft choices, and more. In a press release, the airline announced that for its winter offering, it would fly to a total of 77 destinations spread across 10 Asian cities, 5 US destinations, and 62 destinations in Europe, out of its hub in Finland. Daily flights to the United States can be seen at New York JFK, 3 times weekly services to Los Angeles and Miami, and then we have a 4 times weekly flight to Dallas, which are all on the cards out of Helsinki, utilising their modern aircraft, and on top of that, the modern cabin products. Within Asia, they'll serve Delhi, Singapore, Narita, and Seoul, while in the future they do intend to fly once again to Hong Kong, Mumbai, which is a new destination, and Shanghai. But what is important to note with these Asian destinations is it is permitting restrictions and the actual ability to get these aircraft on the ground there and have enough of a load factor for these routes to be worth their while. If, say, in 7 months' time something happens or Hong Kong is continued to be shut down, there would be no reason for them to fly their aircraft there. Due to airspace closures in Russia, some flights will be remaining suspended to Asian destinations. The airline does regret to inform this, however in the press release they note you'll basically just need to seek an alternative method of travel with another carrier, without saying those exact words. Garuda Indonesia is the next focus for today's proceedings in this video. The airline has seen an announcement recently with lawmakers topping up on the capital in the airline of $522 million USD for what is not the first time. It's also a decision that has been made to keep the struggling airline afloat. They've battled throughout the global pandemic to remain in the best possible position to navigate through these turbulent times, if you will, something it has indeed struggled with. Garuda Indonesia is now also in the process of renegotiating the debt it currently has had with creditors since last year. It's been an ongoing fight, and they're now in the final stages of these proceedings to understand what is next for them within the industry, and of course the specific dealings with this debt. Whenever a firm decision is made regarding this, I'll be sure to update it in another Aviation News Weekly, as Garuda Indonesia are a big carrier within the aviation industry. Their global network is expansive, and of course we'll be wishing them nothing but the best and hoping that the tides do turn in their favour. Similar to the expansions of routes and the building of a winter schedule at Finnair, the final topic of today centres around Air New Zealand, who did recently announce the further development of their own route network, with a keen focus on North America, only weeks after the announcement of the service to New York, giving them now one of the longest flights in the world when that does commence later this year. The airline recently resumed its Auckland to San Francisco service, utilising the 7879 Dreamliner on a 3 times weekly service. From the 4th of July, they'll see their 7879 embark on another 3 times weekly service from Auckland through to Honolulu in Hawaii, while finally, a 3 times weekly service with the 7879 Dreamliner will commence on the 7th of July, just 3 days later, to Houston in the United States. The Air New Zealand Chief Customer and Sales Officer said, "Our North American network plays a key role in our strategy, so it's great to be able to reopen another important port in the region. San Francisco is a year-round destination for Kiwis and an important departure point for Americans looking to visit New Zealand and Australia." Of course, all these routes that I did mention, which are either launching or relaunching, will be used by the Boeing 7879 Dreamliner, which, if you've been keeping up to date on all things Air New Zealand, you'll know that this is the aircraft type they do intend on using for the future, eventually removing the Boeing 777s and becoming an airline that utilises the 787 Dreamliner for all their long-haul services. It's something they will be transitioning to as the decade does come to a close. Whether they move towards potentially another wide-body aircraft in the future remains to be seen, but the airline at the moment, and with its strategy, sees the 787 as an aircraft that can operate any mission that they require as an airline, whether it be medium to long-haul or to even ultra-long haul. That's going to conclude today's Aviation News Weekly. If you have any thoughts on the topics mentioned, whether it be Finnair, Air New Zealand, Garuda Indonesia, or maybe the first story covering that Canadian airline Flair and the risk of their operating license being revoked, well, you can let me know down in the comment section below. If you'd like to see more of these videos on the channel, you can also let me know. Subscribe if you're new, take care and be safe, and I'll see you next time.